I think that's the reason why so many bands get taken advantage of and lose all their monies because they're not thinking.
CC DeVille was once the man chosen to take Slash's place, the guitarist whose riffs catapulted Poison to the top of the Billboard charts. But during a disastrous night at the 1991 MTV Video Music Awards, it all came crashing down. He played the wrong song, his guitar jack fell out mid-performance on live TV, and he got into a backstage fistfight. By the end of the night, he had been kicked out of the band. With fame came more than just success. It brought a storm of drugs, alcohol, ego, and long nights soaked in chaos, hallucinations, and isolation. Once a rising star, CC suddenly became an outsider in the very world that once embraced him. But that wasn't the end of his story. Who really is CC DeVille? A reckless musician consumed by parties and addiction, a casualty of stardom, or simply a Brooklyn kid chasing a dream too big for Hollywood? This is the story of CC DeVille, a tale of downfall and redemption. A twisted path where even the brightest stage lights couldn't hide the darkness he carried inside. In the final act, we meet a man who lost everything but never gave up the fight to reclaim himself. Born Bruce Anthony Johannes on May 14, 1962, in Brooklyn, New York, CC grew up in a working-class Jewish family. His father had a service job and his mother worked retail. Money was tight, but they did their best to provide a steady life for their son in a neighborhood filled with honking cars, gasoline fumes, and arguments leaking through apartment walls at night. His childhood was anything but calm. Bruce often described himself as a weird, lonely kid lost in his own world. While other kids played outside, he stayed indoors, wrapped in the sound of old records and voices from the radio. Bands like Kiss, the Rolling Stones, Lou Reed, and David Bowie lit the first sparks of rebellion in his young mind. Around the age of 6, his parents quietly split. There were no arguments or custody battles, just a heavy silence that left a lasting void. He once said, "I learned to scream through the guitar because nobody at home ever really heard me." A guitar, gifted by his mother one holiday, became his only real companion and his way out of feeling invisible. Bruce began playing guitar at 5, entirely self-taught. He didn't have lessons or formal training, only raw passion. He played until his fingers blistered, taught himself chords from vinyl sleeve notes, and copied the moves of guitarists he watched on TV. Music was his sanctuary, and the stage became the only place he ever truly felt alive. Though not a standout student, Bruce was clever in his own way. He had a rebellious intelligence, more captivated by breaking down guitar solos than solving math problems. After high school, he enrolled in music at New York University. But the rigid structure and high-pressure environment clashed with his creative spirit, and he dropped out after a year. His family was disappointed, but to him, it was the only honest choice. Leaving Brooklyn behind, Bruce also left behind his name. With just a few $100s and a worn guitar, he headed for Los Angeles, a place of glittering lights and lurking dangers. There, Bruce transformed into CC DeVille. He wasn't the lost Brooklyn kid anymore. He was a flame, ready to set the stage on fire. When CC landed in LA in the early 1980s, he had almost nothing, a beat-up guitar, a few rough demo tapes, and an unshakable belief that he was meant to make it. LA was the epicenter of rock and roll, but also a ruthless arena. Every bar and street corner became an impromptu stage where hundreds of hungry musicians competed for a sliver of attention. CC bounced from one band to another, trying to find his place. No name recognition, no contracts, no clear direction, just determination and a relentless desire to prove himself. He started with a band called Screaming Meanies, then moved on to St. James, a mid-tier glam rock group. But no matter where he played, one thing always came with him, an intense, wild energy and a rebellious attitude. At small venues along the Sunset Strip, people may have forgotten the songs, but they never forgot Devil's guitar, loud, brash, and always ready to erupt. Beneath that wild exterior, though, was a deliberate method. CC knew he wasn't Steve Vai or Yngwie Malmsteen. He didn't rely on technical skill alone. What he had was charisma. He used his guitar like a stage prop, like a limb, like a storyteller. In a scene full of talented but forgettable musicians, DeVille made sure he was the one no one could overlook. Then came a turning point. In 1985, Poison was on the rise and searching for a new guitarist to replace Matt Smith. They held auditions in Los Angeles. Among the hopefuls was none other than Slash, who would later become a rock icon with Guns N' Roses. But his gritty style clashed with Poison's glam-heavy vibe, makeup, hairspray, and flamboyance. Then CC DeVille showed up. His audition was pure chaos, in the best way. He even played an original riff that would become the iconic opener to Talk Dirty to Me, the track that launched Poison into stardom. Bret Michaels later said, "The moment CC hit that riff, I knew we were hearing something different. Raw, messy, but alive. That moment sealed it." CC was in. From barely getting by in grimy clubs, he became a key piece of a band on the rise. And he didn't just bring his talent. He brought mayhem, contradictions, an over-the-top lifestyle, and the early signs of a storm that would eventually engulf the band. Joining Poison in 1985, CC stepped into the heart of glam metal's golden age, a time when everything was bigger, louder, and more dramatic. He wasn't just Poison's guitarist, he was the wild card, the explosive element that made them stand out in a crowded scene of hairspray and eyeliner. Their first major release, Look What the Cat Dragged In, 1986, was their breakout. Though produced on a tight budget with low expectations, CC wrote the unforgettable riff for Talk Dirty to Me, which became not only Poison's biggest hit but a defining anthem of glam rock. He also co-wrote tracks like I Want Action and I Won't Forget You, proving his talent for creating catchy, emotionally charged hooks that resonated with their young fanbase. Decked out in spiked hair, tight leather, and armed with a flaming BC-rich guitar, CC was more than a musician, he was a spectacle. By the late 80s, Poison had become rock royalty. Their second album, Open Up and Say, 1988, sold over 5 million copies and pushed them into the mainstream. CC continued to shine with his energetic riffs and wild solos in songs like Nothing But a Good Time, Fallen Angel, and the chart-topping ballad Every Rose Has Its Thorn. Though he wasn't writing lyrics, his guitar breaks carried the heart of those songs, turning them from typical love songs into emotional time capsules for an entire generation. The success didn't stop there. Their third album, Flesh and Blood, 1990, saw Poison trying to mature musically. The album blended harder rock elements with deeper narratives. Despite growing friction among the band members, CC's influence remained strong. He helped shape the unique sound of hits like Unskinny Bop, Life Goes On, and Something to Believe In. He didn't need over-the-top solos, just a few well-timed notes with the right emotion left a lasting impact. Ironically, this subtlety came from someone known for going over the top. On stage, CC DeVille was pure fire. He climbed amps, spun around, pointed his guitar like a weapon, played with his teeth, he shattered every rule of performance. Every show was a whirlwind, pulling fans into a world where rock wasn't just music, it was an attitude, a lifestyle. No one in the band could match his magnetism. He embodied Poison at its rawest, wild, dazzling, and totally unfiltered. But behind the glitter and lights, trouble was brewing. CC's personal life was spiraling. He'd disappear during studio sessions for hours. Arguments with Bret Michaels became constant, about everything from set lists to stage volume to who really led the band. What once made him exciting was now wearing thin. His erratic behavior had gone from charming to disruptive. Still, it's impossible to deny that CC DeVille helped shape Poison's image, sound, and wild legacy. The band's first 3 albums with him sold over 15 million copies in the US, placing them in the same league as glam metal heavyweights like Motley Crue, Def Leppard, and Bon Jovi. But as with all high points, the fall was inevitable and brutal. For CC, it didn't happen slowly. It all came crashing down in one unforgettable moment, broadcast live to millions. The culmination of backstage battles, ego clashes, and mounting chaos. By the early 90s, the very spotlight that once made Poison stars had turned into a scorching flame, burning the band from within. DeVille and lead singer Bret Michaels had a falling out that grew far beyond musical differences. Their visions for the band diverged sharply. One wanted to hold on to the raw, chaotic energy that defined their early sound, while the other was pushing for evolution and a more polished hard rock approach. Their clashes became constant and petty, from arguing over who deserved more time in the spotlight, to whether the guitar was overpowering the vocals, even down to who entered the studio first. With egos heightened and substances like alcohol and cocaine fueling every interaction, minor issues quickly escalated into serious fights. In Nothing But a Good Time, Bret Michaels recalled, "CC was high. I was drunk. He hit me. I hit him back. We fought because his guitar was so loud I couldn't hear myself sing. Everyone was burned out, and sobriety was a distant memory. No one was in a state to hold the band together. Everything boiled over during the 1991 Flesh and Blood tour. Backstage at a New Orleans show, DeVille and Michaels got into a physical altercation. It was bad enough that they had to cancel upcoming performances, fueling rumors that Poison was on the verge of breaking up. The tension finally exploded during one of the most high-profile events of the year, the 1991 MTV Video Music Awards. Poison appeared on stage in their trademark flashy attire to perform their new single, Unskinny Bop, in front of millions of viewers. But the moment the music started, something was off. DeVille began playing the wrong song, Talk Dirty to Me, an older hit. This wasn't just a simple mistake, it publicly undercut the band's image and promotional efforts. Things worsened when his guitar jack came loose mid-performance, cutting the sound entirely and causing the performance to collapse. Host Arsenio Hall had to reintroduce the band, a first in the show's history. Backstage, DeVille and Michaels came to blows again. Security stepped in before it could get worse. There was no discussion, no second chance. That night, DeVille was thrown out of Poison. The fallout didn't stop there. A few months later, during a live Pirate Radio Saturday night broadcast, Bret Michaels was giving an interview when DeVille unexpectedly called in. The two exchanged angry words live on air, confronting each other over past remarks and unresolved tension. After Poison's infamous 1991 MTV appearance, DeVille exited the band without saying a word. He left behind a shattered career and a reputation clouded by addiction and violence. In rock, rebelliousness is often forgiven. But in that moment, CC wasn't seen as an artist anymore. He was viewed as a saboteur. And nothing is harsher than the music spotlight turning away from you after once lighting your path. In the years that followed, DeVille lingered in obscurity. He created Samantha 7, releasing one album in 2000. While it wasn't a total failure, it barely echoed the success he once had with Poison. During rare interviews, DeVille tried to stay lighthearted. But beneath the familiar sarcasm, it was obvious, he was a man worn down, battling with loneliness and... The first person they contacted was DeVille. By that time, DeVille had accomplished what many thought was impossible, he had gotten sober. Gradually, and quietly, he worked his way back to clarity, with therapy, honest self-reflection, and eventually a call from Ricky Rocket. No flashy lights, no egos, just a simple question, "Are you okay?" In 1996, Poison and DeVille officially reunited for their Greatest Hits tour. It wasn't about a grand comeback. Instead, it was a test of friendship, forgiveness, and the strength to rise after everything. CC stood on stage for the first time in years, holding his old guitar with a mix of caution and hope. But when the cheers erupted, it was clear the audience hadn't forgotten him. This time, he didn't miss a beat. Still, recovery is never straightforward. In 2000, tensions flared once more. DeVille wanted Samantha 7 to open for Poison's tour, but Bret Michaels rejected the idea. "If it's Poison, it has to be all Poison," he said. Feeling hurt, DeVille abruptly left the band without a word. Michaels later recalled, "I drove him back. We laughed, hugged, said see you in a couple weeks. Then I never heard from him again." However, just 2 weeks later, DeVille came back, not with an apology but with a simple truth. He could play for 18 people with his own band or for 18,000 with Poison. both he and the band understood something important: no matter the conflicts, CC DeVille was an irreplaceable part of Poison. This reunion wasn't about rebellion anymore. It was about acceptance. The band had stopped trying to change each other and instead learned to coexist despite their differences. DeVille, now sober, was quieter and more focused on music with a newfound calmness. He was no longer the troublemaker but the guardian of an old flame, one that had once burned him but now he handled it carefully. Since then, CC DeVille has stayed with Poison through numerous tours, compilation albums, and reunion shows that helped revive the glam metal era. This time, the audience didn't just see him as an artist, they saw him as proof that some flames, even if they can't be extinguished, must be controlled to avoid burning you alive. Offstage, CC DeVille used to embody everything wild about being a rock star: endless parties, fleeting relationships, and a string of scandals that he could barely remember. But underneath that rebellious exterior was a person seeking genuine connection, something he rarely experienced during his peak years. After overcoming addiction and rejoining Poison in the mid-1990s, DeVille slowly stepped out of the limelight, choosing to lead a quieter, healthier life. He wasn't just tired, something new had entered his life: family. In 2007, DeVille and his longtime girlfriend Shannon Malone welcomed their first child, a son named Valentino. That moment, not a hit song or tour, marked a true turning point. DeVille, once a notorious guitarist, stood in awe of his newborn son, realizing that life was never going to be the same. In interviews, he admitted, "Becoming a father is the only thing in life that made me want to stop, listen, and grow up." He moved away from the chaos of Hollywood and settled into a peaceful home by the ocean in California. No more week-long parties. Instead, there were school drop-offs, family time, and playing guitar for joy, not pressure. Shannon, who rarely appears in the media, has been a constant source of support, helping DeVille avoid spiraling back into old habits. Since starting a family, he's stayed clear of romantic scandals, a surprising turn for a rock star once known for his chaotic relationships. In a VH1 interview, he once said, "I've lived crazy enough to know that stability isn't boring, it's a luxury." Though he never married Shannon legally, for DeVille, their home together was complete, a place where he didn't have to perform or wear the mask of an artist. He lived as a father, a partner, and a man who had endured hardship and chose to protect the part of himself that remained. In a rock world once marred by early deaths, broken relationships, and personal tragedies, CC DeVille's decision to slow down and live peacefully may be his final act of rebellion. This time, it's a rebellion to stay true to who he really is. Now in his 60s, CC DeVille no longer leaps across the stage in his signature glittering outfits from Poison's heyday. But he hasn't disappeared. On the contrary, he now lives differently, quietly, with a depth that reflects his journey. He resides in California with Shannon and their son Valentino, where the chaos of the spotlight has been replaced by the soft light of everyday life. In 2024 and 2025, DeVille remained connected to music, though he no longer participates in large tours. Poison had originally planned a major reunion tour in 2025, with all the original members, including DeVille. However, the plan was scrapped when lead singer Bret Michaels took a break to focus on his health, particularly to manage his diabetes. Still, the band confirmed they would return in 2026 to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Look What the Cat Dragged In, and DeVille will be an essential part of that milestone. Even away from the stage, DeVille hasn't been idle. He continues to engage in local events, participate in charity shows, and particularly support the musical path of his son Valentino, who is said to be following in his father's footsteps. CC DeVille, driven by his passion for guitar and performance, remains active on social media, sharing glimpses of his daily life, connecting directly with fans, and holding on to something he once lost: authentic connection. While he may not be the most technically skilled guitarist, CC DeVille stands as one of the most influential figures of the glam metal era. His iconic riffs, from Talk Dirty to Me to Unskinny Bop, not only shaped Poison's signature sound but also became the heartbeat of a generation defined by MTV, Hairspray, and endless parties. DeVille's style, wild, raw, and driven by instinct, defied traditional techniques and proved one key truth: emotion and personality can surpass technical skill. He transformed the rebellious guitarist into a stage artist, making every performance a visual and emotional spectacle. His true legacy isn't found in platinum records or awards but in his ability to survive, grow, and stay true to himself through the chaos. From being fired for playing the wrong song on live TV to living a sober, simple life devoted to his family, DeVille's journey is one few rock musicians from his time can match. Even today, when a Poison riff plays, people still think of him, not as a flawless guitarist, but as C.C. DeVille, a living symbol of a bold, unstoppable era. As he steps away from the loudest chapters of his life, C.C. DeVille leaves behind more than just unforgettable riffs. He leaves a story of falling, rising, and personal growth. His journey reminds us that even when everything crumbles on the grandest stage, you can always rebuild if you have the courage to face yourself. Perfection wasn't necessary for him. C.C. DeVille became a role model for those who dare to live authentically, rebel, and make things right. He shows that sometimes, just surviving is a victory in itself. C.C. DeVille will forever be an integral part of glam metal, a key figure in rock history, and an inspiration to anyone who's ever felt they've gone too far to turn back. What do you think about C.C. DeVille's courageous and turbulent journey? Which moment of his career made the biggest impact on you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to uncover more untold stories of music legends. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next